you talk about Will and Grace.
Oh, yeah.
And there were these very perceived rules about if you're going to talk about homosexuality or gay couples on a television, here are the rules. And there was this way in which that it has to be done responsibly, and Will and Grace didn't follow any of those rules.
Yeah, so this is all this work of, I've ran across this really wonderful TV scholar named Bonnie Dow, who does this analysis of the way that Hollywood talked about, first she starts with the way that Hollywood talked about women's issues. Mm-hmm. So remember that wave of kind of feminist shows starting in the 70s, Mary Tyler Moore Show,
right. Rhoda,
Alice,
Cagney and Laci. Is that? Yes, I think that's part of that.
Yeah.
And she points out that you would think watching those that those were shows that were kind of pro-women's liberation or whatever, feminist, but they follow an implicit set of rules about how a woman is allowed to proceed. She says that in every case, the women was only allowed to succeed if she was succeeding in a man's world, and all of those heroes were childless and not in a relationship. So the real message of those shows were, yes, you can get ahead if you're a woman, but only if you give up any chance of having a family.
Right. There's no domesticity.
There's no domesticity.
Yeah.
So it's not really, are those shows pro-feminist, or when you watch them, do you think, oh, wow, that's the price I have to pay if I want to participate? Then she says there's a similar set of rules about the way Hollywood dealt with gay topics. And the rule was the homosexuality was always a problem to be solved. In other words, the plot surrounding the gay person had to turn on the fact that everyone else in that person's life was trying to fix all of the crisis that had been caused by this person's sexuality. The gay character was only ever seen in isolation. So they didn't have a community. They didn't have, they weren't in a relationship. They were just off by themselves. It was like the typical one would be, you find out your 16-year-old son is gay, right? And so the whole family is left to deal with this intense problem. Another rule was no sex. So you can't ever see what this thing is about. It's always an abstraction. And and then the last one was that the gay character cannot be the center of the narrative. They have to be peripheral to the narrative. The narrative is about it. So you add these up, and you could watch a made-for-TV movie that might be on its face, might be quite sensitive and sympathetic to the gay character, but all of these rules are telling the audience that this guy's off in the margins. He's on the fringes. He's incapable of participating fully in modern life, right? So, and there's a wonderful book. This film scholar does a book where he looks at every single film from 1940 to 1975 or 1980 that had a gay character, and he just shows like every single one of them meets a bad end. They either are killed, commit suicide, end up in prison, or like every single one. There's like 48 characters and like every one of them. And what happens with Will and Grace is that Will and Grace comes along and breaks every one of those rules. So Will's gayness is not a problem to be solved, right? Never. It's never perceived to be a problem. He's not seen in isolation.
It's Will and Grace, so he's number one on the call sheet. He's not peripheral.
He's not peripheral. Yeah. He has Jack, and he has boyfriends. He's part of a community. Go on and on and on. He's a center of the show. He's not. And the effect of that. So if you're someone who's watched TV your whole life, and all you've seen is gay characters in this very specific context where there's something deeply problematic about them, and all of a sudden you're exposed to a show where there's a gay character and there's nothing. I mean, he has problems, but they're not problems related to his sexuality. He's just another neurotic.
He's like the rest of us.
He's got
problems. We all have,
Living in an apartment in New York, which is what all sitcoms were about in those years, right?
Right.
So there's something with that show that kind of, that is a revolutionary show. It completely rewrites the rules. I think, if it's always a fun experiment to say, what are the 5 most important television shows of the last 50 years? And I think Will and Grace is like, I would put it, I don't know, second, third. I think I don't think it's.
I think
it's ahead of Archie Bunker. I think it's.
Yeah.
They always say 60 Minutes is one, and like.
I usually get 3. I'm usually 3.
Your show?
Late Night with Conan O'Brien is usually 3.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are we in the real world or in my reality?
Yeah.
Because I like my reality. And in my reality, I think Mermaid is perfect. Little Mermaid.
I should not have laughed so heartily at your suggestion. No, Conan,
I don't know what
sure
you find so funny.
You are-
I'm always like 3 or 4, but I know what you're saying.
I think you're top 10.
Yeah, thank you.